Welcome to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. I am your host. I am also an author, a life transition expert with a private practice helping people deal with the upheaval and the challenge of change. And I'm also a speaker. You can learn more about the work that I do if you go to paulashaw.com. That's paulashaw.com. And by the way, while you're there, be sure to grab the free gift that I offer, which is something really, truly valuable. It's a list of 20 things to say and not to say to people in distress. Those difficult conversations where you don't really know what to do. Ooh, let me grab a copy of that book right here. Saying the right thing when you don't know what to say. That is my latest book. And it's all about the do's and the don'ts of conversations that are difficult. Conversations where people are usually they've suffered some kind of loss. It might have been a job loss. It might have been a relationship. It might be a financial loss, a health loss. There are so many different kinds of loss that we experience. And when we are going through loss, we are in pain. And people in pain are different. It's a different kind of conversation. And if you pick up either the book that I just shared with you, Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say, or just grab that free gift. It's an actual list of sentences that are helpful to say and those that are not helpful to say when you're having those difficult conversations. So be sure and get that. Also, if you want to learn more about this show, or you're interested in being a guest or a sponsor of this show, look for us on changeitupradio.com. That's changeitupradio.com. We also archive every show on that website. Of course, we're also on every major podcast platform and on iHeartRadio. But one of the easiest places to find us, unless you have a favorite podcast platform that's easy for you because you're listening to a lot of podcasts, but you can go to changeitupradio.com and just click on the Listen In tab, and that will take you to our former shows. And we've got some great shows there. We've had some wonderful people on this show. So today, speaking of wonderful people, my guest today is a man named Dave Franco. And Dave is, in my opinion, like one of the great storytellers of all time. Of course, his original career is as a writer. And I think good writers have to be good storytellers, don't they? But Dave is going to teach us a lot about story and its value, not just in entertaining people, but story has value. Telling stories has value on a whole other level that sometimes we don't think about. I mean, when you really think about it, what connects you to somebody else? When you walk away from meeting somebody new and you think, wow, that was just really great. Wow, I really enjoyed him or I really enjoyed her. What is it that you really enjoyed? What connected you? What made you feel that this is somebody you want to interact with again? I think if you think about it, you'll realize it's usually story. Something they said or something they recounted about an experience they'd had that touched your heart, that connected you to them on a level that was way beyond intellect. I mean, think about it. I was thinking about this morning. When you have a lunch with a good friend, or if the girls get together. What is it that makes the night fun? What is it that makes us laugh and even cry together? It's usually the stories we share. If you ask me if I had a good weekend, and I say to you, yes, I did have a good weekend. And you say, well, what did you do? Oh, I went to dinner on Friday. I took a run on Saturday. I worked out a little bit in the afternoon, talked to a couple of people on the phone, and then Sunday I did a longer meditation. How interesting was that? But if I say, oh my God, you won't believe it. Friday night, my friend Lewis and I went to the Belching Beaver and we got to sit by the fire and we met this couple and he was into auto auctions and she was an interior designer. And oh my God, she told me the coolest thing about interior design. Did you know that you should never mix more than 3 colors? Because if you do, you see what I'm saying? You get my drift? It's a little more interesting when I share a story. Now you feel engaged. Now you have more of a picture of what my weekend was like. You don't just have me reporting the facts. And this is such a critical thing because one of the things I think we don't often think about is even in our businesses, using storytelling in our marketing. Dave is going to be really enlarging on this when we talk with him very shortly. But think about it, if and it's such a creative idea. But here's another example. So many of you know that I love and use the LifeWave phototherapy patches. And if I were to tell you about those patches and just say, oh, there are these wonderful patches made by a company called LifeWave. They don't use any drugs or chemicals, but they can reduce pain, they can reduce inflammation, and they can activate your stem cells and make you look younger. That's kind of interesting. It's information. It's intellectual information. But if I were to say to you, you won't believe what happened to me. I was getting ready to go on a trip and I dropped my suitcase on my toe and I'm sure I broke it. It started ballooning up and it was swelling and I thought there is no way I'm missing that trip tomorrow. And so I got one of those LifeWave phototherapy patches that is supposed to take inflammation away. And I also got one that activates stem cells and healing. And I just put it on my toe because I was determined that next morning I was going on that trip. And guess what? The next morning I woke up and the swelling was gone and my toe felt kind of buzzy, but there was no pain. And the swelling was pretty much gone. And 2 days later, I hiked up 9,000 feet. Now that's a pretty interesting story, isn't it? Now you might be much more inclined to go, wow, tell me a little more about those patches. Much more inclined than you were when I gave you just the facts and figures about those patches. And actually, by the way, that's a true story. That actually did happen to me. And it certainly is a much more interesting way to start a conversation with somebody about those patches than it would be just to start giving them the facts and the science behind it all. So keep that in mind with whatever your business is, or even if it isn't business. Let's say you're just meeting somebody that you kind of had some interaction with on Bumble or Hinge or Match or something, and it's the first meeting. Remember, they want to know who you are. They want to connect to you. And the connection happens through the heart. And one of the best ways to get to somebody's heart is through story. I want to share with you a couple of quotes that I just loved about this very thing. And actually, one of these was stated on the Golden Globe Awards, which were on recently. And this was the statement: stories change our hearts and our minds, give us empathy, and connect our hearts through compassion. Compassion is the breakdown of all the barriers between us, a heart to heart bonding. Your pain is my pain. It's mingled and shared between us. That was said by Chloe Zhao, who won the Best Director award for the year. And it was actually a quote from a man named Bob Wells, who was one of the nomads in the movie that she created. And this quote I also want to read to you because this is from our guest today, Dave Franco. Our lives are enriched through stories. A beautiful, well-told narrative brings family together, forges unity in organizations, and is a deeply meaningful gift. Isn't that a cool concept? A deeply meaningful gift. So remember, when you share more than just your thoughts with somebody, you're giving them a deeply meaningful gift. I love that. All right, we're going to need to take a little break here, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio here with Paula Shaw. And in this segment, I am very excited to introduce you to a man who is a master storyteller, who really knows a lot about what story can do to connect you to others, what story can do to make our lives just a whole lot more interesting. So let me tell you a little bit more about Dave Franco. He's a writer of more than 25 years, having started out as an advertising copywriter in New York City. And then later he transitioned to feature story writing, ghostwriting, and he's a speaker consultant on the topic of how to make the power of story impact your business. He's also the owner of Link Book Legacies, a company that writes and produces private use books for those who want to leave their story to their heirs. And that is a beautiful concept we'll also be talking with Dave about. Welcome, Dave. Join me.
It's nice to see you, Paula.
Thank you. I am just going to try to change our view here so we can see each other. Let's see. Here we go. There you are.
Oh, here I am.
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
So, Dave, in the first segment, I was sharing with everybody that one of the things I've learned from you is that story is what connects humans. Story makes the interaction, the conversation, more than a sharing of facts. So, would you speak to us a little bit about that?
Well, I had, as you mentioned, I was a copywriter for many years. And when I finally got a chance to tell someone's story, I was shocked at how much emotion followed it, followed in the wake of storytelling. I was asked to write one story, and when I wrote the story, it was posted on a website, and thousands of people from around the world came to read it, and it exposed me to something new that I had never known before. And you would think that I would have it, as having been a copywriter for so many years, but a story had people writing in and thanking me, and there were tears that followed and amazing things that followed. And I thought, this is just incredible. You know, I want to do
Right.
more of this. And so the organization I was with said, do more of this. And I thought, okay, I will. So I just ended up writing stories. And I came across a woman at an event. Actually, I didn't really come across her. She was sitting next to me, talking with people, her friends in one direction. I was talking in the other direction,
Mm-hmm.
and we really didn't say anything to each other. Bad of me, I know. But at one point, she ultimately says, oh, hey, so what do you do? And I told her that I had written this particular story. Turns out she had read it like 2 months prior.
Oh my.
She had actually come across this thing, and it was just at the mere understanding on her part that I had written the story that she burst out in tears.
Mm.
And I initially had wondered why it was that what did I say something wrong, or what did I do? And she was just really overwrought with the topic of the story, and she cried because my story was about this guy who his son passed away, and she was dealing with a similar thing on her end,
Wow.
But because it was so many months removed, I realized that if her tears happened just at the mere mentioning that I had written it, that it was hot to the touch.
Yes.
The story sat underneath her surface right there. So I thought, here I am writing stories for a living, although it is only about 3 or 4 months that I have been doing this. I need to stop and find out what it is that means so much to these people. Not to these people, but everybody. Why is stories so powerful?
Yeah.
So I checked it out, and here's what I found out. A
Okay.
story and the human brain are the perfect pair. We match each other perfectly. We think that we love stories. We really don't just love stories. We have to have stories. It's how we make sense out of our lives. It's how we teach our
Mm.
children. Stories, our mind tells us stories in the middle of the night, as if it's
Yes.
working something out inside of us, our emotions or our
Yeah.
brain, preparing us for the next day. Um, so I have seen a scan of a person's brain when they were watching or listening to a story, and the entire right side of the brain lights up, like New
Mm.
York City at night, just bam, like the electricity is all on.
uh,
And so all those things that are on the right side of the brain, like you know romance and color and lyrics and poetry and abandon, all those are on the right side of the brain to become
mm.
completely engaged, almost as if we as humans walk around doing one thing, and when we hear a story, suddenly we're like, glom on to a story.
Yes.
So I had mentioned a story to you, you and I, when we first met, I had mentioned a story about a network meeting that I had. Should I
Oh, I would
say
love
that?
you to share that because it was so impactful.
Okay. I went to a network. I was invited to a network meeting one morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I like those kinds of things. I like to meet folks, and so this particular group was having 3 people speak and tell about their business. So first person stood up. Let me know if I'm going too long, Paula.
No, no, you're
Okay.
doing great.
Um, so the first person got up and said, "Hi, I'm Jim from Jim's Gym." And hey, come on in right now. We've got rowers and machines, and we've got the weights, and we've got classes till 12. We've our showers are brand new. You're going to love it. And you're going to come in here, and we're going to help you lose that weight and get into the shape that you've always wanted. You're going to have a great time. Come and see me. I'll give you 20% off on a new membership. I promise you're going to love it. I'm going to show you around. It's going to be great. Thank you very much. I'm Jim with Jim's Gym. And he sat down to light applause. Next guy stood up and said, "Hi, I'm John from ABC Solar. And hey, you want to get off the grid, get your electricity down? We're gonna come in. We're gonna put those things on your roof. We're gonna get in, get out. You'll never know we're there. We got a nice crew. You're gonna love us, and we're gonna change your life. You're gonna wonder why you never did it. You got to come see me today. I'll give you 10% off. You come see me and off your install. Thank you very much. I'm John with ABC Solar." And he sat down. Light applause. And then another woman stood up, very small, soft-spoken. She said, "Hi, my name is Sharon. I was 6 years old when my mom and dad came running down the hall to grab me and my sister, took us out of our bedroom, and we went to the front of the house where we watched our house burn down. And it was devastating. Soon my dad pulled up a trailer onto our lot, and we all sat there. We all lived in the lot in the trailer for a time, and a man came up. I remember a man coming up to the trailer, and my dad and him talked, and he shook his hand when he left, and he went away. And I said, "Who was that, Daddy?" He said, that was our insurance agent, and he's going to get us our house back. Well, sure enough, a crew arrived, and there was lots of hammering and sawing and noise and sound and fury. And little by little, our house was going up. And so some months later, it was a day that we were going to go back in, and it was a great day. It was very exciting. Our house was better than ever. And we were going in, and it was most exciting day of our lives. The man came back, and my dad went out in front and visited him again and shook his hand. And this time he gave him a hug. And I thought to myself, when I get to be older, I'm going to be an insurance agent. So if you'd like an insurance agent who really cares, I hope you give me a call. And she sat down, and the place erupted in applause and whoots and whoos and howls and what's in there, just noise in the room. And we all knew that we had been given an experience, and that those two other guys, their list of things that they were told didn't match to the experience that she had given us, and how much of an insight that we had into seeing why she did what she did. And the truth about the matter is, those two guys, Jim and John at ABC Solar, I don't remember a word about. I don't even remember what they said. I had to make it up to make them part of this story, because they were so forgettable. But she was unforgettable, and I think that is what's.
I got to tell you, I have tears in my eyes and chills. This is such a great example of what I was saying that you said before you came on, about that connection, that heart connection. Yes, like I will remember her story long after this interview.
If you really want to own a piece of someone's mind, own real estate in someone's mind, tell them a story. I promise you this, Paula, if you give a list of things, people's editor comes up and scrutinizes and evaluates what they're saying. Do we really believe you? Do we want what you're selling? But when someone tells us a story, the door just swings wide open, and they step right on in, and we are like, just tell us a story. I'm all in. I'm engaged. What do you have to say?
Yes. This is so powerful. I mean, I really hope everybody listening is asking themselves right now, how can I use a story to tell people about what I do? We're all told to create our 30-second elevator pitch, and obviously doing a story like you said this woman told is more than 30 seconds because she had more time. But I think there got to be ways, you're the expert, Dave, to carve, instead of, I'm Paula Shaw, I'm a life transition expert, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, instead of all that, even in 30 seconds, can you think of a way, Dave, like in 30 seconds to make, instead of a list of things you do, a more of a story saying who you are?
If it's a business setting, if it's a business intent, I think what you do is you raise a problem that you can solve, and tell how you arrived at the ability to solve it. My own personal goal is to include something that is a problem that exists between you intending or to fix it and then fixing it. Is to just find a short way to tell how it is that you transitioned from not being able to fix it to fixing it, and include something that stood in your way. That's difficult to do in 30 seconds. I do understand that. But I think there's ways. I was just told a story the other day by a guy when I was telling him this. He goes, well, let me tell you my story. And he pulled it off in probably 45 seconds, was able to tell me why it is the bulb went off in his brain, and he saw a new way to do something, and how it helped so many people.
Oh, I love that. We've got to take a break right now, but that was such a great tip. And so while we're on this break, all of you who are listening, start thinking about how you can weave more than just facts into your description of who you are and what you do, whether it's introducing yourself to somebody or in your marketing text. We will be right back to continue this discussion with Dave Franco. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw, and my guest today, Dave Franco, who is a writer and an incredible storyteller. And we have been talking in the last segment about how valuable storytelling can be in your marketing for your business And really in connecting with other humans and being memorable with other humans. So Dave, I'm so in awe of what a great storyteller you are. And I remember when I first came into awareness of you at the Rotary meeting that we were doing. And I loved how you just leaned in and talked to the people. And obviously, you have known for many years the value of just kind of leaning in as a human being and talking from your heart, telling stories. You also do this through Linkbook, and I think that is such a beautiful concept. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Linkbook Legacies is, sorry, I need to do this. Linkbook Legacies is my little company that tells people's stories for their heirs. Usually it's people who have started a business and have done pretty well in it, and they want to pass down, or it doesn't have to be just a business. It could be anything that they want to pass down their virtues and their stories through the generations to the heirs, and they keep themselves alive, but I think more than that, they keep their virtues alive to really benefit and bless their family as generations pass.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very fulfilling thing. I have had remarkable experiences telling other people's stories. It turns out that everybody has a remarkable story. You think that that's really kind of only reserved for people who have done these, famous things. That is not the case. I really believe every person listening today has a story in their lives that could hold an arena spellbound. Because this life, getting to our advanced age, whatever it may be, it took a lot of courage. And whenever you have a
Amen.
story where courage is on display,
Uh-huh.
people are all ears. They want to know how they got through it, because we're all in the middle of our own difficult lives. Problems come to us all the time. We're all in the
Yes.
middle of something that we're dealing with, and we want to know how you did it. How did you get through? We really connect at that point. So that is what Linkbook it does. I've even There's even a time when I did a story for a man who was 92 years old. He was in World War II. And it was just a month after him and I had completed his book that his daughter called me and said that he had fallen into a coma and he was going to die. And
Oh.
would you mind it if you sent us the book, because we hadn't finished actually making the book? Could we send her the manuscript so she could read it to her dad while he lay there, really not even
Oh, how
built? And
beautiful.
I said, would you like me to come and read it for you? And she said, would you mind? I said, no, I'll do it. So I went to the hospital. The family gathered around. He was laying there with only his foot twitching around, and he was just unconscious. But I read his story, and I thought,
Mm.
what an amazing thing. It wasn't a doctor or a priest who was with him in his final moments. It was a storyteller reading the story
Mm.
over his life.
What a
Amazing.
I can't imagine a more beautiful as one of the family or for him. What a beautiful passing, to be honored that way. And so what you create is it's not just one story. It's a book of the story of of the person's life. Correct?
Well, yes, it can be anything. There have been some people who have hired me to just write one story.
Ah,
They had this and they wanted this to pass down. And then
got
there
it.
have been other people who wanted big chunks of their life told. So
Yes.
I'm arching over many years. And I've had situations where families have pulled their money together and hired me to tell the story of a passed on relative.
Mm.
And there are other people who will have me write the story of their grandparent, because they realize that their kids and their parent, they don't know each other, and they need those, that
Hmm.
connection between the two generations. So all manner of things have come to me.
That is such a beautiful concept. And if people are interested, they can contact you if they want to a link book legacy. They would contact you how, Dave?
At linkbooklegacies.com is my website. You can look
Okay.
that up there. I also have another website that has just different samples of my writing at Franco Creative. francocreative.com, and my email address is dave@francocreative.com. Yeah, or you can reach me at my phone number, which is 858-342-9501.
Beautiful. So, I've got so many questions about stories. Is there like a format, Dave? Does a story have to have a certain thing at the beginning, something in the middle, and something at the end to make it a really good story? Or is it just the way you tell it? What is it that makes a story a great story?
Well, as I mentioned a little bit in our last segment, a story is really great when a person transforms from one form of themselves to another, whether they've learned something or experienced something or what have you. So I do like to coach people into looking for this story in their lives, where something started small and went big, something that started disheveled and became in control. A company, someone, you took over your dad's company and it was losing money and it was poorly organized, and you made it go, great guns and like a well-oiled machine. A idea that became a product and it became successful. That transition and that transformation is really what I think people like the most and connect to the most. But the main component of it is that there is trouble in between. There's conflict in between. And it doesn't have to be major. It doesn't have to be, this huge thing. You just got to provide a little something for the person to have to get around or over or under or through.
Yes.
That really means a lot. And I'll tell you why. When you expose some trouble, you also expose vulnerability. And when you expose vulnerability, you expose or create, that's the word I'm looking for, create empathy. And when they have empathy for you, they're rooting for you. And that is the connection. That is why trouble is so important, because it ultimately makes people who are listening to be rooting for you as well. And that is I think the essential connection. There is a guy on YouTube who has 3 different videos. And one is called The Birth of a Pipe. And the other one is called An Artisan Discovered, I believe it is. His name is Jay, like just a J, Allen, Alan, Pipes. And he makes these extraordinarily beautiful pipes. And he starts with a crude piece of wood, and it just looks like a nothing. And he makes these spectacular, beautiful pipes in the end. And he uses all his machinery, and sometimes they chip and break his wood, and it doesn't really work out. He's got all kinds of machine, and that becomes the trouble, the thing that he's got to get around, because sometimes it ruins his pipes. But when he does, he transforms this crude piece of wood into the most spectacular, beautiful, artistic pipes you've ever seen. So if you have any confusion about, well, how do I make a story work again, go take a look at those videos, and you will just get a sense. You'll go, oh, okay, I see the transition.
That's beautiful.
Spectacular. Yeah, you'll find it there.
So before we run out of time, Dave, I just wanted to ask you a little bit. When you're working as a consultant with businesses and trying to help them incorporate storytelling, is that something that you're doing in team building exercises or with their marketing materials, or is it all of the above?
It's really one-on-one because it comes out of a personal thing. So it's really hard to hold a meeting. Initial presentation I can make to sort of set the tone of storytelling, because I'm really hoping that sales teams can become teams that have a storytelling mindset, not just a story in hand and ready to go. Although I want them to have that. I want them to have the mindset that we are a storytelling team. This is kind of the bread and butter, and so when I have to work with somebody to help them find the story, it's really one-on-one. I'd love to be able to do it in a group meeting, but because sometimes it comes out of very personal things that someone finds their way to the ultimate goal that that they want to tell that story.
Yeah, I love that. And yet I think what you shared with us in our first segment, the story of the woman in the networking meeting, how we can make even a situation like that so much more powerful. And I know since I met you, when I'm even writing my bio, I try to include a little bit more story because I loved your statement. If you want to own real estate in somebody's head, you got to tell them a story. And I get that. Like they have to connect with you as a human being. And it seems that empathy and compassion and even fun, probably, when you share fun in a story, you remember that too, that those human emotions are powerful, powerful.
So true. That is so true. You find yourself at any party, you'll realize that it was the storytelling that made
Yes,
it fun. And by
absolutely.
it, you felt a little enlivened by it. If someone just
Yes.
gave you facts all night long, it wouldn't mean anything to you.
Oh my God, you'd be bored to death and you'd hope you never saw them again,
That's
right?
Please don't invite me.
Well, Dave, one more time, please give our listeners your contact information in case they have a business need or a Link Soul Legacy or a Link Book Legacy need. Please give them that contact info again.
Okay, my phone number is 858-342-9501, and you can go on to Linkbook Legacies, plural, linkbooklegacies.com. You'll find me there, and you'll also find a way to contact me there. My email address, it's all there. Plus Dave at francocreative.com. Several ways you can get a hold of me.
Beautiful. Dave, it's been just a joy having
No
you
problem.
with me. Thank you for sharing your expertise, your gifts, and who you are. You're an amazing guy.
Pleasure to see you.
Thank you. All right. Good to see you too. And stay with us because in our next segment, my daughter, Erin Shaw, will be joining us to talk about our rut buster for this week. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. I am very excited. Again, we just had a fabulous, fabulous interview with Dave Franco, amazing storyteller. And in this segment, you'll get to meet my daughter, Erin Shaw, who has been with us the last couple of shows because we're doing a new segment now we call Rut Busters. And Erin is also a writer and a very great storyteller and a musician with an amazing voice and a very creative thinker. So, Erin, I'm going
Yeah,
to let you take it away. First of all, you might want to review for any new listeners what this segment is all about.
sure. My first question is when you say Dave Franco, do you mean the actor or is this another Dave Franco?
Oh, this is another Dave Franco, but he could be an actor. He's a great storyteller and a very handsome man. You'll have
I
to
was
check out the
I was going
show.
to say if you got the Dave Franco on your show, why would you not tell me? But I'm sure this Dave Franco is also amazing. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me back, Mom. I'm excited for week 3 of Rut Busters. This is a new segment that we created coming into the new year. Well, I guess a little bit after, but kind of moving into the next phase of our lives post quarantine. We were discussing kind of how, off of the air, how we've all kind of gotten into a little bit of a rut in quarantine, and some of that is survival based, and a lot of stress with this virus and everything. So it was this idea of like, okay, we're coming back out of it, vaccines are starting to roll out, we're kind of moving back into a place of normalcy in the world, but how do we kind of rev back up our energy and our creativity after so long sort of hibernating? So that's what we're doing here.
Beautiful. That was a great recap.
Thank you.
So, for any of you who were not aware of the last 2 weeks, the first week, Erin challenged me. So, she challenges me, and I challenge all of you to jump in on this. The first week, she challenged me to take a different walk every day because you get so used to doing same old, right? And that was pretty amazing how much more aware and in the present moment I found myself. The second week, she challenged me to start a new hobby or just
How did
like
that
do
go?
something you always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And
Tell
so
us about that.
Yeah, I decided that, I had these bird feeders that I've started getting a lot of action on. And it's like one of the things I enjoy most. I find myself standing at the kitchen sink because that's my window that looks out on the backyard
Yeah.
and watching birds eat. I mean, how exciting could it be?
And
And yet
last
it
time
is.
you had a rabbit the last
I
time I was
know.
there.
I did. I had a bunny. And now I'm starting to notice other creatures too. Like I've always loved little lizards. And I notice now there are lizards that I never saw before because I'm paying more attention. But I also went to the bird feed store and I
Uh-huh.
got a little book so
Mm-hmm.
I can start identifying what my birds are
Mm.
and different species. I do realize though in my little kit in my new bird watching hobby, I've got to get some binoculars.
Yeah, good idea. I think every birder has a pair.
Exactly. I thought it was just kind of cliche and I didn't want to be cliche, but
Why?
you can't see the damn birds very well from a
Listen,
distance.
most cliches exist for a reason. And
Good point.
I'm not a fan of like stereotypes necessarily, but I think cliches are usually cliche because they're,
Yeah,
ubiquitous. So,
somebody figured out that maybe it was important.
right.
So I think
Exactly.
that's what I'm going to ask for Mother's Day. Ooh, what a good idea.
Mother's Day is a way off. I
Oh,
think
that's true.
maybe buy them now and we'll just reimburse you when May comes around. It's only March.
Oh gosh, that's true.
You'll be squinting like this for 2 months, and then come June, spring is over and all the birds are
Right.
heading,
And
out.
I'll have terrible crow's feet and hate myself.
There you go. Yeah. So abort that plan.
All right. So do you have a
Well,
challenge for me this
I
week?
do. So first thing I want to just say, I'm so glad that you picked this hobby because I think there's a temptation when we talk about getting a new hobby to like feel like it has to be something artistic
Mm.
or like musical. Or I know we talked last week about me having done some watercolor painting as my new hobby. So I like that you chose this because I think it's very unique and specific to your like what you're doing with your life these days.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's very you for right now. And that's good. You want a hobby that's unique and personalized. So top
Yes.
marks.
And it
Uh,
has to give you joy. You
right.
mentioned that. And
Yeah.
the birds give me joy, so I thought, well, why not?
Yeah, it's great.
Hmm.
And the fact that you were even a little reluctant to get those binoculars because you're like, I don't know, am I going to feel like a dork? That's the whole point of the challenge, to like pull yourself out of your comfort zone and be like, okay, you
Yes.
know what? I'm in my 70s now. I don't mind being that bird watcher with my binoculars because life is short. And when else am I going to do it?
I think now I'm going to have to get some of those khaki shorts and a
Get a little
vest.
vest, get a little vest and a little hat.
That hat. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll start getting you little pins to put on your vest for each new species that you
Oh,
discover.
there we go.
Yeah.
It'll
It'll be
being
just
a scout again.
it'll be adorable. Adorable. All right. So here's your new challenge for this week.
Okay.
And I think you're going to like this one.
Okay.
So this is just something I know about you. And it's something I think it's okay for me to share with your listeners. You are not a huge fan of like making lots of phone calls in your social circle. Like you kind of are more unifocused with work and sort of connecting with immediate family as needed. But
Mhm.
you're definitely not the type of person to like gab on the phone to catch up with someone.
Yeah.
And and I love that. That
Mhm.
is like where I come to eat. But for you, it's a challenge. So, and I think for a lot of us, it is because we've got social media, we've got texting, we've got email, kind of
Mhm.
like the era of the Sunday afternoon phone call is sort of kaput. So
Mm.
my challenge for you and your listeners this week is to reconnect with an old friend and one you haven't talked to,
Mm.
maybe in the last year, but like pick up the phone and call. Maybe there's someone in
Ah.
your life that you don't keep up with regularly. You've been going, gosh, I wonder how, Linda's
Yes.
doing, or whomever. And that's the challenge, is to make a phone call and catch up with someone you haven't chatted with. It doesn't have to be for very long. You could schedule an hour and just let them know that's how much you have or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
if it's someone who's particularly chatty. But that's my challenge this week. So
I love that. I love that because you're right. Unless there is a real motivation to do it, it's always like, oh, I wonder about so and so. I'll have to give her a call, but then you don't.
yeah. And I want to bring back, coming out of COVID, I want to bring back more of an analog lifestyle where we're getting off the computer, we're getting off of
Mm.
Zoom. Sorry, Zoom. But like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to bring back like Sunday supper and like having, being with friends in person and like
Mm.
putting the phones away and like talking. So
Yes.
yeah, I think this is the first step. I mean, in this case, you do want to use the phone, but it's so different when you do this than when you actually can hear someone's voice
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that's
Especially for we boomers, because that's how we grew up. You guys have been texting all your life.
right.
And I remember a story that one of my clients told me, that her daughter was having a slumber party and she noticed it was very quiet, and she suddenly thought, did those girls sneak out? And she went to the bedroom door, and to peek in, they were all sitting in the room texting each other.
Yeah.
Like they were right there in each other's presence. They
Yeah.
were texting each other rather than having conversation.
Yeah. I'm a little worried about that generation coming out of quarantine and like having not been around each other, especially
Oh,
the like middle school age kids that are like just learning to socialize. Fingers crossed for them.
yeah, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting thing that you bring up, though. What's happening now, just coming out of quarantine? What are you seeing in people your age, and what do you think is happening to kids even younger? I mean, you teach kids online. What
Well,
do you?
my generation, I'm a Gen Y/millennial, so I'm in my 30s. My generation, we're super we like analog. Like, we're the generation that's like, oh, I'm going to learn to use this film camera from the 80s, or I'm going to buy a record player, because we're excited to go back to that kind of simpler time. So I think for us, the idea of just like getting together for a chat, it's a comfortable leap to make back into.
Mm-hmm.
I worry, but like, I use technology mostly for convenience or for work. It's not the sole place I go to communicate necessarily. Some people do. I would much prefer to talk. So I like using apps like Marco Polo, where you leave video messages back and forth, or even the like temporary voice memos on text. I'd much rather do
Mm-hmm.
that than do this. And in fact, I've noticed recently, after this year of quarantine, I'm so anti like typing stuff now. I just want to speak everything into my phone. And I found out recently that if you double tap the function button on your MacBook, you can actually speak into your computer and it dictates. And I'm like, this is amazing, because
Oh my God.
I'm so tired of typing. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh,
So
you're going to have to tell me more about that
I will.
after the show.
Okay.
Speaking of which, we are just about at that time. So thank you, honey. I love the new challenge. I'm going to
Yeah.
take that on.
And
And
don't forget, everybody, to join us on social at Change It Up Radio on Instagram and on Facebook as well. We'd love to hear how the challenges are going for you.
yes, we really do want to know that. And if you have any ideas for challenges, we'd love to hear those too. So thank you for listening. Thanks for being here, Erin. You know that you can hear us on Sunday evenings at 9 o'clock on AM 1170 and 96.1 FM. And we are on every major podcast platform, including iHeartRadio and Podopolo, my new fave that has gaming and all kinds of incentives and lots of fun involved with listening to your podcast. So join us there as well. And join us next week. Next week, I'm going to be talking about a world of grievers. We need to maybe, as we're coming out of quarantine, look at some of the issues that we're going to need to work on just getting more comfortable with, or even healing, that happened to us through all the loss that we all that we all experienced during this quarantine. So we'll talk about that next week on Change It Up Radio. Until then, thanks for being with us. Bye-bye.